Hello and welcome back to the football show with me, Mark, Kyle, and Imran. Had a bit of a break for a couple of weeks, but here we are back again and ready to talk all things football and get into the things that are going to be keeping us excited as we go through the next couple of weeks in the league. How you doing, guys? What's going on?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you both?
Yeah. Keeping well, keeping well. It's really cold up here at the top, but anyway. Lonely at
this
the top.
season, this season's made me realize that I should have stuck it on you both more when we were at the top last season.
Oh, don't come and
You're
break
really
it.
milking it.
I'm
Really?
quite kind on these shows. Come
Nah,
on.
you listen, because it comes around so infrequent, you got to take it whilst it's here, man. At least for us anyway,
Fair enough.
It
Yeah.
isn't often that we reach a February and we're top of the league. So, feeling great, man. How are things otherwise? How's your studies, man?
All good. I think it's ramping up compared to first year, but that's always the case. I don't know about you, Carl, but
Ramping
exactly.
up.
Yeah. Yeah, the workload comes and goes, but it's something you come to expect, isn't it?
No, that's good. That's good. Keeping the two of you busy, but at least
Yeah,
you've
of
got
course.
you've got some football to dig your teeth into. So let's jump into the show, and perhaps there's probably only one place to start really, as we get back on the groove of our show, and it's the legend that's John Motson that's no longer with us. I'm a bit older than you guys, obviously, but this guy is probably one of the reasons why I fell in love with the game so much. Just and to this day, I still prefer to probably listen to football on the radio than watch it on telly because it is just the way he painted the picture and the emotion that he expressed, and it was a wonderful career. And sadly, he's no longer here. I don't know. Have you got a Motti moment?
I mean, I can just think of Match of the Days where you would hear him commentate, but I think it's more stories that I hear. Like my dad has him down as one of the legends of the commentating game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think for me, like because my childhood really has been so sprinkled with long drives, whether it be for like athletics training or races across the country, and you hear these games on the radio, and it's just a voice that you become so familiar with. And like Imran said, he's just got this way of painting the picture.
Yeah, I think to this day, I think my first the FA Cup that I always return to as the one with the most memories for me is Coventry against Tottenham Hotspur in 1987, which is one of the legendary games in the FA Cup final. And Motson, and his commentary in that game was fantastic. And Spurs lost, so I mean, but he's gone, and he's left a real good legacy, John Motson. So looking back then on game week 25, quite another long one as we try to catch up after the World Cup, and quite a few interesting results as on the back of game week 25. The one that is kind of getting away from us a little bit is Fulham, because they're getting a lot of results, and they're not losing games, and they're kind of hanging around in that top six quite strong. So they picked up a point in game week 25. Any standout ones for you guys?
I think it's an interesting point from an FPL perspective. I think I've said this already, but for Fulham, looking at the team, you always see the likes of Mitrovic and other quote-unquote standout players that are always unavailable. And you're like, well, are Fulham going to struggle without these players? And they just never seem to. Like you said, they just keep coming in week after week and keep getting point after point. It's quite interesting to see.
Yeah, it's looking quite strong for them. And I think the other couple of fixtures that I thought were quite interesting. The Sean Dyche bunks at Everton seem to have all but disappeared.
Yeah.
So they could even beat Villa at home. They saved up that one win. That one win. Right? The one win that they had to achieve, and that they had to get out against Arsenal, which is a bit unfortunate. But normal services resumed at Goodison Park, it would seem. And we'll talk about Spurs and Chelsea a little bit later on. But Arsenal got their own back at the Emirates. And it was 3 fantastic points as well. Your boys as well, Imran.
Yeah, I mean, a decent 2-0 win, nothing to write home about, but it's just a sign of a bit of consistency in the league. I think that's 4 clean sheets on the bounce for us in the league, at least. But then we go and caveat that with conceding 5 to Real Madrid. I can't forget about that. So, you can take it with a pinch of salt.
It's an interesting point because as we'll get to in a second, I played my wild card for the game week that's just gone, and I was looking at the keepers, and Alisson I think has the 4th most points out of all the keepers in the league.
We're fourth on the clean sheets table. Which
how on earth is Alisson like, I just couldn't comprehend that at all.
Well, I think Liverpool are starting to just turn a little bit of a corner. And but we'll see as we look at their fixtures a little later on, because this is the real test now coming into the business end, right? This is the business end of the season here now. So, but there was some good results, some surprising ones as well. But I think overall game week 25 was quite an important one for the two at the top of the table. Absolutely 100%. So let's talk about United. We headlined the show this week. It was whether or not United are back. Do you think they're actually back, or are we just seeing a little bit of a temporary uptick? Are United back?
Back and they're on the right track. Back on the right track, but not back yet.
Not back yet.
I would not say they're back yet. I think next season will be very interesting in terms of, because I actually think they could drop positions next season. Funnily enough,
really.
Because I think they've probably gotten third nailed on this season. But I think if a resurgent Liverpool come back, Arsenal are only going to improve, and City is City. I think United could actually be fourth best team out of those 4 teams. So I reckon.
Don't forget about Newcastle.
And of course, Newcastle improving. Chelsea might steady the ship with all their signings eventually with a new manager. Who knows? But I think it's so hard to tell with this season, and you can tell that Ten Hag has a plan and he's got them playing good football. But I think next season time will tell whether they can get to a title charge, because obviously they're just not that. I don't think they're there yet on the level of the Arsenal or City.
Well, I think they're back personally.
Really?
I honestly think they are, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but it's fantastic that they've illustrated Ten Hag here with a magician's wand, because I think you go back a year ago and you would have thought to yourself, we got a couple of years without Man United being any kind of threat.
Yeah,
and I think you go back to Bournemouth this season and you think to yourself, United are not going to be too much of an issue. But suddenly they've won the first trophy of the season.
Yeah.
And they said Bournemouth. I think it's Brentford, not Bournemouth.
Brentford, I thought so.
Yeah. Bournemouth, of course. Not Bournemouth. Yeah. But suddenly it looks as though, man, this team is completely changed. And he's molding it in his own style. They look very, very threatening every time you see them go forward. The players look hungry. Everybody look as though they're happy. So I think they're back. And I hate to say that, but that's just the truth.
I think Imran has a point though. I think we kind of have to wait till next season to see just how solid the team has become.
Man, they've just won the first trophy of the season.
I know. Like, let's not take that away from them. A trophy is a trophy at the end of the day. But I think you've got to almost see where Ten Hag takes the team into next season.
Yeah.
Because again, it's interesting. I saw Chelsea fans piping up this week because of all the fans to pipe up after a team wins the trophy. It's it kind of just solidifies again to carry on talking about Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel came in and got
days.
the amount of finals.
You can't get over him, can you?
How many times are we going to hear this repeated stuck record?
Seriously. No, but my point is that granted, Ten Hag has managed to get to the Carabao Cup final. He seems to be doing very, very well in both the Europa League and the Premier League at the moment. But whether he can continue to do that into next season is, yet to happen. So we will see.
Really?
Yeah.
We will see. We just don't know. We don't know.
And I think one of the mainstays of his time so far has been his man management more than anything. So I think next season will be more about the actual technical side of the manager, or how he improves his players from a technical point of view, and the players that he brings in. Because so far he's 3 for 3, I'd say. Well, I think they still overpaid a bit for Anthony, but Martinez and Casemiro have been very, very solid in centre back and midfield.
Anthony's got no right foot.
Yeah, exactly. For
£100
million or 80 million pounds, I think you expect a bit more from Anthony. So the jury could be still out for him in the transfer window. But if he has a solid one, I think he has the right foundations there to maybe push on and take them up to that next level. It's Manchester United after all.
But let's not talk about Anthony. Let's talk about the guy on the right. And what do you make of Garth Crooks's comments there about he's done precisely what Cristiano Ronaldo couldn't do in United's dressing room? How good has Casemiro been for United?
I think it's absolute facts. Like the clip that's been circling around social media this week about how Casemiro was fuming at Bruno even after the final whistle had gone for not playing that fast. I think that perfectly just encapsulates exactly who Casemiro is as a player. He's such a leader of a player, and he comes like, I think back to when he scored that is it 94th minute equalizer? It was an equalizer against Chelsea, which made me mad, obviously. But, like, just the way that Casemiro has celebrated that goal, like you can just see the passion that he has, man.
He's a winner, a complete winner, but without an ego. I think that's what Ronaldo down.
That's a great way to put it. But Cole, do you think they're back?
What?
United.
What? I can't deny the form they're in. Like, I watched the second leg against Barcelona the other day in the Europa League, and I have to say the football they're playing is top tier. So, I mean, I can't deny the form that they're in. I simply can't.
Avoiding the question.
Yeah, I am.
I still waiting for an answer, but anyway, let's crack on. He can't make his mind up. But look, the other talking point that we have to dwell on a little bit is we're 13 games away from the end of the season now. So this is, as we said, this is the business end now. Arsenal are 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League for the first time in years in February.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit nervous, but I have to admit now we're in this title race. We're 100% in this title race now.
Took you long enough.
I know, because you get through January and you think, is it really?
Yeah.
Well, 13 games to go. You have to say, well, I think we're in it. I honestly do. But the twist ahead is the interesting thing, because we don't know what's going to happen. 5 points is nothing. Lose a couple of games and suddenly you're chasing.
Especially with this City team, they know they've been there and done that multiple times before.
Yeah. They have. But I like the hunger that Arsenal have this season. We had a little bit of a blip against Everton, and we lost 3 games and went a little bit of a period without scoring. I'm still, in our last show we were asking whether Arteta has got enough. Has he done enough business? Yeah. There's still a little bit of nervousness with me in that regard, and whether or not he has got enough, because sometimes you do think Europa League is coming back, and Thursday and Sundays, and we look a little bit light. Okay, let's see. What do you think, though?
The
what do you make of the title
race? I've absolutely blown up already, to be honest.
Trossard
and Jorginho, like these two have come in and immediately made their mark.
I bet you love seeing Jorginho in a red shirt.
You know what? When he's I love that every Chelsea fan on the planet had exactly the same reaction when he rocketed that shot ahead against Martinez's head in the Villa game. Like, where on earth has that Jorginho been for the last 6 years? Like, we have never seen him do that in a blue shirt. Like, what on earth has Arteta fed him in the first?
We've just unleashed. We've just unleashed the guy, man. You guys had him caged. We've just unleashed him. So we'll see. But what about City and their form? And as you said, Imran, they're used to being in this position at this time of the season. What do you think?
It's the business end, as you said multiple times, and City in the business end. Trust me, from a Liverpool fan, I can tell you they are just a ruthless machine. They just go on these runs where they just play the most like muscle memory football almost, where they just get that, just racking the goals and they get the wins in. So it is on Arsenal really to just keep churning out the wins, because City will not let you breathe. They'll be on your neck no matter what, and I would probably back them to beat you again if once you play again.
Well, we've got to play them at the Etihad, and I don't know. I'm quite impressed with how we've played them in the last couple of games. I was really disappointed in the FA Cup game, because I thought the FA Cup game was the key to getting some more momentum. I felt if we had won the FA Cup game, we would not have gone on those 3 or 4 defeats that we had, and that was unfortunate. But I think we are matching them, but they've got the experience. And, it's whether our boys are hungry enough and strong enough to take us through the March and April that is ahead of us. But we'll see. But we're in this race, even though there are plenty of twists to come. Let's talk about the FPL, man. We've had a bit of a break over the last couple of weeks. Arjun is still leading.
Yeah,
There's no change there.
Has that been the case since what week has that been the case now? I think
well,
it's gonna be
I
the
was
longest.
trying to look back and I couldn't actually find it, but we gotta have to find that for the next show.
Yeah, I think it
I
must
reckon
be
it's
at
probably
least.
game week 4.
At least 4. You really think so
Yeah.
early?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think so because he was the early leader and then he fell away and then he came back and he hasn't.
It's at least because it was him and Adam at the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
But it's at least early November, like maybe even end of October.
Yeah,
definitely before the World Cup. 100%.
Right.
So any observations on the top half of the
Well,
FPL?
I've finally got a green tick next to my name, like at last after long weeks of battling. I finally made it up to 5th. It was kind of frustrating because I can't remember which play it was now. I should probably have looked before the start of the show, but like I think Paul had he'd either captained someone that was in my team or he brought in someone that I was going to transfer in, and because of that he got the edge on me, and so he sat there in 4th nice and glum.
But there's not a lot between you, you know.
There isn't a lot. And the thing is, one thing that because we haven't done a couple of shows in a couple of weeks, Joe Carthy has had a crazy surge up into 7th.
Where's he come from?
4 weeks ago, he was like 12th. And now, I think he must have got like a top 3 league performance 2 weeks in a row. And he just jumped up the table to 7th. It was insane. So thankfully,
so this weekend you could be joining the 1500 club because you see they're clustering there now around 1500s and 1400s in the top half of the table. So I was very proud to have joined the 1400 club this last week myself.
Well, it's interesting because I was checking, as you do. I love me some stats, and I was looking at Arjun is currently in like the top 300,000 in the world at the moment, and like I can't wrap my head around how he stays so consistent.
Yeah,
like because sometimes like when we say that at the beginning of the season, we kind of brush it aside because it's still early days and everybody's pulling out some. Like I remember me and Imran had the school friend a couple years back who randomly triple captained Patrick Bamford in like game week 2, and out of nowhere just skyrocketed to every league he was in. And that's the kind of thing you get at the beginning of the season. Yeah. So when you look at like the overall statistic, kind of like but we're in like game week 24, 25 now, and Arjun is still top 300k, and that's.
We need to try and get him on the show, man. We need to come and get him here talking about his tactics and his strategy. He's been there. He's been there long enough.
Yeah.
Anything of note on the bottom half?
Have you got any previous champions?
Other than Adam Bonham is still stuck in the middle of the bottom half, and well, he's.
Well, you got to give a shout out to the likes of Didier, who got 116 points in the latest game week.
Oh yes.
I mean, Didier seems to always get 100 points in some kind of game week every season. Usually he's 7th, just above me, and he casually gets 100 points, but not this season.
He can get all the 100 points he wants now, because I tell you what, he's going to struggle to get out of that bottom half the way these points are rolling in for everybody else. He's going to have quite a time, I think, trying to surge in the last half of part of the season. So what's done it for Arjun then in game week 25? Where was he strong?
I think go.
It was interesting. I was saying to Imran pre the start of the game week that I'd missed scenes. So because of there were 4 teams that weren't playing. It was Brighton, Brentford, Newcastle, and United.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, there were a lot of teams that had a lack of players, and I went into that game week thinking, you know what, I think Arjun might actually have 11 players playing this game week, which like no one on the planet had. And so I took another look, and it turned out that it was still like 9, and then Mitrovic was injured, so I was kind of bailed out there. But even then, the captaincy choice that he's got the 2 Arsenal players, even the 3 Arsenal players there, to be fair. He's chosen them very, very well.
Yeah, he definitely got his captaincy right. Had he decided to make a swap out for Rashford, he might have even been further, because he was probably a little bit overlooking that one.
It was interesting because I was speaking. Imran's clever, because I was speaking to him pre the game week starting, because as I said, there was a lack of teams playing, and Kevin De Bruyne went and got ill, so I was kind of forced into a wild card. Earlier than I wanted to, so it's kind of messed up my future season prospects. But I was there thinking, it's a wild card and not a free hit, so I've got to make sure that I've still got players for the future, because if I go in playing 11 out of 11 players, then I'm going to have the likes of United players, Newcastle players, just not in my team for the next 6 weeks. So it was interesting to see people choose to keep players like Rashford and like Kieran Trippier, for example.
Yeah. That's exactly what I did with mine.
Exactly.
Bench for the week.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think his weaknesses are, Imran? Because we can't seem to spot them, and he keeps making the right choices.
I think maybe a little drop in momentum for Newcastle. I think Almiron isn't scoring at the rate he was pre the World Cup or even just after. So I think maybe a dip down with the League Cup loss. They might lose a bit of momentum. They've lost their second game of the season, of course, in the Premier League to us again, and you could just maybe see them stalling a bit and not being as worth it with their assets with Trippier and Almiron. So maybe you'd have to think about changing those out, but. Apart from that, you've got to say it's just a very solid team.
It is, and you do wonder now as you move post League Cup. I thought Newcastle were quite disappointing in the League Cup. I really expected much greater fight and taking it to United, but to be honest, United were just so good, and kind of snuffed them out.
Maybe the occasion got to a lot of the players. I think
maybe, but I want to see what Newcastle are made of now post the League Cup and that massive defeat. Whether that becomes a defining point in the season. It wasn't a big defeat, but I think it was massive in terms of where are they going to go now. After that Wembley appearance. Well, you topped out on us, hasn't happened for a long time.
I mean, it's still not the greatest feeling considering I triple captain, but I think it made sense to do it based on the fixtures that we had. And Salah hit the bar in that Crystal Palace game.
Captain more Salah. I mean, what is the evidence?
Got 4 less points than Saka.
I only actually, to be fair, in the last few years, I actually haven't been triple captain in Salah. I've been triple captain, I think, Kevin De Bruyne off the top of my head the past 2 years, and he's let me down. So I thought these fixtures look okay. We would finally turn a bit of form, so might as well put him in there. And we go away to Palace and play absolutely awful again, but we managed to get a 0-0 draw out of it. But Salah hit the bar in that game, really unlucky, and then managed to get the goal against Wolves, thankfully. So it salvaged it a bit. But apart from that, the team was okay compared to what I have. Considering it's a blank game week, we got Haaland scoring, Watkins scoring, which I was very happy about.
He's going under the radar as well, but he's having a really good spell at the moment. 5 goals in 5 games. It's really, really good.
Yeah, he's on a good streak of form, and that's why I got him in, just to play the form card, and thankfully gave me a return. And then obviously the Arsenal assets have been with me all season and have been brilliant, Saka and White.
I think Harvey Barnes has been a little bit of a letdown this season, though.
I agree.
He's not really hit the heights that you would have expected, after coming off what I thought was a pretty good season last year. He hasn't really been firing, but I guess that is also Leicester. They haven't been firing, Jamie Vardy's got 1 goal this season?
Yeah.
I saw Brendan Rodgers bought him on last week in the hope that he would get his traditional goal against Arsenal. Those days are gone, Brendan. Those days are long gone, my friend. And Carl, you got second place this week between the 3 of us, 76 points, and you got a green tick. So
I actually think that the wild card was a very, very good one. I was really gutted. I didn't watch the game, but I don't think it was on TV anyway. But I think Darwin had a disallowed goal against Wolves.
Yeah,
and
really.
When I got the notification that Darwin had scored, I was like, "Come on!" Because it meant that
wait for the VAR.
it meant that every player in my team that wasn't a Chelsea player got a point.
Wow.
And then it got disallowed. But I had a good overall week, I thought. It was interesting to see that I don't think anybody in the entire top half of our league owned Martinelli, and for good reason, by the way. Why anybody brought Martinelli into their team?
Doesn't score enough goals, man.
It was so weird. Like, people chose to bring Martinelli over the likes of Saka, Odegaard, even like Trossard, Jorginho, there were so many other options there. People
I think he's very deceptive from the point of view of he always seems as though he carries a threat, but he doesn't deliver on the threat. If that makes sense.
Arteta did drop in Ketia, which did shock a lot of people. And
he's round to form now. I think he's ran his race for us. So we really need Trossard to start hitting some goals over the next couple of weeks. I'll tell you who's gone a little bit unnoticed, and you've got him here in your team, and I think Imran had him as well. I think Ben White has had a fabulous season. Extremely solid, very, very strong performances. And between him and Saka working down that right side for Arsenal, it'll be interesting to see how many goal contributions they've had over the course of the season. But he has been really, really good.
It's really interesting thing. I think Ben White is one of the only players in your team that hasn't scored this season, if I'm correct.
Wow.
I think. Because you share goals quite across the squad, but I don't think Ben White has scored this season.
I think the thing
anyway.
I think the thing for me that has been very impressive, because you remember we spent a lot of time talking about him last year and his 50 million move from Brighton to Arsenal. And the centre-back move wasn't really working for him. But Arteta has switched him out to the right, and I think he's just
suits him very well.
Yeah, it really does. And he's got a good partnership with Saka. So I think he has been absolutely solid. Well, I've become a little bit used to kind of being either number 1 or 2 between us, but this week, hey, look, okay, no problem. It's fine. I'm bringing up the rear a little bit this week. I was a little bit confused because I made a mistake. I forgot that Fernandes was playing in the Carabao, and I brought him into my team, sadly. So it meant I took a hit on Fernandes and Rashford and Shaw. So no wonder I tumbled back down from my 16th place, right? But and as you can see, Ivan Toney, nothing. So I did not have a very good week, and I didn't have enough resources on my bench. So that's why Tanganga was in my team, who never plays. But to be honest, it was a ridiculous week for me on the standards that I have been setting in the last couple of weeks. Even achieving my first 100. But anyway,
you could have salvaged something if you'd captained Saka or Saliba.
I could have done,
yeah, true.
But I thought Nketiah was still doing well, and we had two games in the week, and I thought he's got to score something in one or 2 of them games, but I didn't get a good return, and I decided to bring your guy Gakpo into my team, rather than Salah, and again didn't quite work. So
I don't know what to make of Gakpo. He's it's kind of like what Imran said the other day when we asked him about it. It's like because Liverpool aren't really attacking as much as they're used to. It's very difficult to come up with a verdict on Cody Gakpo as a player.
Funnily enough, we actually missed him quite a bit v Wolves when Jota came in to replace him, and I think we actually did miss a bit of what Gakpo provides. And I think if you're on Sunday v United, I think we'll go back to the Gakpo, Darwin, Salah front three.
You reckon?
Yeah, I think he has established himself like in a small way somehow already.
Okay, well, I might keep him in there. Well, the fantasy analyzer tells the story of the 3 of us and our current champion Wayne Skeet, who is shown in goal there, and he hasn't left the top half of the table at any point during the season.
Yeah,
just ridiculous.
Crazy
Right?
consistency.
But in fairness, Kyle, you've been pretty consistent as well, all the way from game week 14. You've kind of held your own in that top half as well, and Imran has been skirting it now for the last 3-4 game weeks.
Yeah,
I didn't get anywhere near, but I would say I did score my first 100 points in game week 23. That's great. I was quite happy about that. But it makes it interesting reading how things are progressing, and obviously what we saw on the table was a lot of grey. There isn't a lot of movement across players in the FPL.
It is quite frustrating to think that in terms of position, Arjun and Wayne are probably the 2 most comfortable people on the entire table, because Arjun's got such a gap between him and second, and then Wayne is just sat there between Emmy and Paul, just in third. There's no one really challenging him, and he's kind of not really challenging anyone. If you look purely at the points that Wayne has got on this table in the last couple of weeks, compared to the rest of us, they're actually quite low. And it's not like he's climbing, but he's not exactly falling either, because no one else is really challenging him for third. So it's kind of frustrating.
He had an interesting dip from game week 18. He started to trend a little bit downwards, but he's rebounded quite strongly, and he's held on to that 3rd place now 3 weeks in a row. But I think you are about to, a strong weekend for you now, Kyle, and you've got Paul Aaron in your sights.
Yeah, true. True.
So we might very well be seeing a change in the top 4. You never know.
I am looking to the future.
Are you going to hold on to the top half now, Imran? You think you're settled?
From now on, this is where I'm at my total charge, of course.
Right. 13 to go, so this is where you come roaring.
Yep, the running is where my team comes alive. I always say to Kyle, I want to maintain my 100-point gap between first, because as long as there's a 100-point gap between first, then that's able to be closed within 10 game weeks. Yeah, salvageable is the word I'm looking for. That is possible within 10 game weeks. So there's 13 to go. and I'm still just about clinging on to that 100. So I have to start closing the gap now if I have any chance of it.
Okay. You know, I'm hoping for a better return over the next couple of weeks, though, to get myself out of this bottom half, because I've spent way too much time trundling along the bottom over the course of this season. They have a good start and never recovered. So there you go.
Yeah.
So, but it's telling a good story, and we will see where we get to in the next couple of weeks, because the fantasy analyzer is always going to show up some interesting trends.
Yeah.
Now, where do you start with this?
What a season for sackings it's been. Crazy.
Every month except December.
That is mental. And that was mainly just the World Cup, of course.
Yes, well, of course. That is true. That is true. And you know, as March is upon us, we've moved Potter into the path of imminent, Kyle. I don't know if you've got anything that you want to say about that.
Do you want to know a fun fact? Real Madrid have scored more.
As long as it's not about Thomas Tuchel.
Real Madrid have scored more goals on English soil in 2023 than Chelsea.
Wow.
Oh, well, that just hurts me as well.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just insane. Like, to think that Real Madrid can come and score in one game more goals on English soil than Chelsea can, like 5 or 6. Like, we scored 1 goal in the entire February. Joao Felix is loving his Goal of the Month award for his amazing goal against West Ham. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
But listen, there's this chatter that's been going around with Chelsea needing a striker. Why isn't Potter playing Aubameyang?
Well, the thing is, like, I'll probably touch on this in a second. Like, it's really interesting talking to non-Chelsea fans about Kai Havertz, because
I've given up
Kai
on him.
Havertz is it's so frustrating. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know whether I said it on the show or whether I said it to in conversation, but like, he does remind me of Timo Werner in the sense that he just gets into the correct positions all of the time. And if anything, he's probably better than Werner at that, but he just can't put the ball in the back of the net. It's like he's allergic to putting the ball in the back.
Good.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I was personally trying to give him as much time as possible, because I saw that I think there was talent in there. But I mean, after a while, you have to give up, and he's just not showing what he can do consistently, or even at all in bursts, even. So it's been too long. For £80 million, you need a return 100% by now, and it's not good enough. I think you have to look to get rid.
But what do you reckon of this Potter Aubameyang thing? Because he has a number 9. Why people keep saying he hasn't got a strike? He's got one.
Yeah, well, that's what's confusing me as well, because Havertz doesn't even suit a pure number 9 role anyway. So the fact that Potter refuses to use Aubameyang, or even they signed the Fofana striker, the young striker Fofana, and just throw him in there, because Havertz really just isn't doing it and hasn't been doing it for about 2-3 years now.
So is it imminent?
I mean,
I think it has to be. Yeah, like
Chelsea,
the fact that.
Yeah, with Chelsea, I think, especially with Bowley as well, he's a loose cannon. You never know what he's going to do next.
No, it depends on what he sees on Football Manager at home.
Yeah.
I think you cannot excuse the run of form that we're having, man. I just don't think you can. Like, the way that we are as a team who won the Champions League 2 seasons ago is now sat 10th.
Yeah.
Where the majority, it's not just that we're sat in 10th, but I think two things. One, the majority of the teams above us have games in hand, unlike us. And 2, we have a -2 goal difference right now.
You do.
Do you know how insane that is? Like, that we, as a quote-unquote top 6 side, are sat in game week 24 with a minus goal difference.
That's crazy.
You guys are, what was it, plus 32 at the moment?
Yeah.
Don't worry about us. We're not in the same league, man.
We're sat there with a -2 goal difference. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely laughable.
Yeah. Well, I think we are going to hear a little bit more about Graham Potter, and the reason why I think we're hearing a lot more about him is, and this graphic is a little bit deceptive, actually.
I agree.
But you know, you Chelsea fans were making a lot of noise about this particular game because Chelsea haven't lost at the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, period, and they haven't lost the Spurs at home.
Spurs have taken
in about
6
10
points from us.
So
Spurs have taken 6 points from us in this season. Like, that is ridiculous. I don't actually, come to think of it, If we won any London derbies this season, Fulham did the double. Well, they didn't do the double. They got 4 points from us. Spurs have got 6. Arsenal, you guys beat us, didn't you? We've still got to play you again.
Easy points, man.
We did rob West Ham. I have to say, we totally robbed West Ham. But then they robbed us with that stupid handball decision. So like.
So where did this game go wrong for you? This Tottenham Chelsea.
I mean, it's interesting talking to Chelsea fans versus non-Chelsea fans about this game, because Chelsea fans are all like at this point of the season kind of just really pessimistic about everything that Potter does, and so I don't think I've really heard anything positive about this game from a Chelsea perspective. But it's interesting to hear non-Chelsea fans talk about how attacking we were. Like, they keep telling me that we had chances in the game, and I'm like, I think you're making it sound a lot better than it looks.
You've got a couple of spikes there on the graphic over the course of the game. If you have attacking threat,
I wouldn't call it a threat. I would call it an attack for sure. But whether it's a threat on goal is
not with Havertz up front.
It's a completely separate classification there. Like, I honestly think that we made Spurs look a lot better than we needed to, and it just wasn't. It's not. Man, it's like, I remember when Ziyech got that red card shown to him, I was like, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Ziyech looked as though he was, so happy to be going off.
Yeah, I mean, you would, wouldn't you? Like, it's unbelievable. Like, how you can look forward to playing in a 90-minute game for Chelsea these days is.
What I will say about this game is it was boring to watch. It was not a great spectacle, especially that first half. I think both teams are a bit like. I still don't rate Tottenham one bit. By the way, I do not rate Conte's football in the modern Premier League. And that game was a lost Chelsea via Conte team did not make for good viewing, as shown. I mean, those attacking spikes, like, they look like spikes, but in any other game they wouldn't be spikes. Just that they're so low. The rest of the attacking threat is so low that it's just
they look like mountains.
Yeah, literally. So I think that just shows how a bit dull and null the game was, which is good for Conte, because he knows that he tries to win games off of moments like that with Kane and well, in this case, Ollie Skip. But yeah, I think it was not a great spectacle.
No, but Spurs took the 3 points, and this is worrying, I think, for Potter and Chelsea.
The thing is, did we sign a single defender in the January window?
Probably not, and that's why
my point. All of our signings were attacking signings, and we scored 1 goal in February. Like, I cannot fathom my head around that at all.
Well, I think there's a lot more misery to come for you, but let's get joyful. Imran, we missed this over the last couple of weeks, man. Your guy celebrated his let's bring him up a little bit there. Celebrated his 1000th game in charge. Yeah, you're a huge fan of Jürgen Klopp. Go on, sing his praises.
I mean, well, we've missed him celebrating in general because we've been so poor before that. But yeah, it's nice to see a couple wins on the bounce. And yeah, I mean, for what a manager. I don't think I won't see anything better than that in my lifetime. And I think he just epitomizes the whole club, and he gets on. As soon as he came, he got on with the city, got on with the fans, and he was perfect. He was the perfect man for the job that we needed with not the most money savvy owners, but the way he's dealt with the funds that he's been given, and he's competed against that mega city team. I think I wouldn't ask for anyone better, and that's why no matter how badly we do, this guy will never be in risk of getting sacked or the fans turning on him. I think he is guaranteed in that position for as long as he wants it.
Wow, that's very strong words there, man.
I mean, it's Jürgen Klopp. I mean, he's the hero of Liverpool, and I think every player would be sold. Any Liverpool fan would sell any player before we got rid of Klopp.
I think there's some managers who you feel fit and understand a city. Yeah, and I also think that Liverpool is one of those clubs. You got to understand the city. You have to really understand how passionate people are about their football club and the history that they have, and it's kind of why, just to go back to Graham Potter for a moment, why I thought him leaving Brighton and going to Chelsea was such a misguided move, because his star was rising so well at Brighton, and you felt as though that attachment that some managers all don't get it when they go to a particular club, Fergie and Wenger and even Moyes when he was at Everton for a long period. Some managers just attach themselves.
Yeah.
Klopp has that with Liverpool, you feel.
Potter could have been to Brighton what died.
Potter could have been. He could exactly. He could have been, but he took that step. But Jürgen he came in and he really warmed to the city, warmed to the people, and I think he got lucky during COVID, but never mind, I had to get that in. But fantastic manager. Fantastic.
Here to stay.
Well, that's what you think anyway. I'm not sure everybody would agree with that, but I think he's been a breath of fresh air to the Premier League. Even though I think in the last year or so you can see that it's starting to wane a little bit, and I think that's coincided somewhat with the turn in form at Liverpool.
But I still feel next season will be a rejuvenated club, and I think we can.
Well, we got to wait and see, because this is the test, I think, now of the Klopp and Liverpool romance. If he decides to stay and do a rebuild, we know that he's there for the long haul. But if he doesn't, it would only have been a very short stint and will probably be a blip in Liverpool's history. But he seems as though he could be the guy who's going to turn it around. Could be.
As long as he's backed appropriately. It does require a lot of money to do it. It
takes a lot of money to compete against City and Chelsea, man.
Yeah.
Well. Thank you for including Chelsea.
I just have to give him a bit of a special mention. Let's talk about the next 6. So, I'll kick us off because, clearly Arsenal are in the driver's seat this season, 60 points. Talking about goal difference there, Kyle, plus 33, just so you are clear. I think the next 6 look pretty decent for Arsenal. The only one that I would probably be, really fearful of is going to Liverpool on the 9th of April, because playing Liverpool, even if they're out of form, is always going to be difficult, and it's always a tough fixture for us. But I would hope that we would go and get 3 points in the more immediate fixture tomorrow against Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Fulham are going to be tough because they're difficult to break down this season. Crystal Palace are really inconsistent. Leeds are fighting for their lives.
Palace are quite a bogey team for you, though, aren't they?
Nah, but I think we'll turn them over. I don't think they're playing very well and not
the
scoring very
Emirates,
many goals.
Yeah, true.
So,
true.
And West Ham, you don't know who's going to turn up. So I think Arteta is in a good place right now. If we land at least 15 of these 18, I think Arsenal will win the league. Wow. In this group of fixtures right here. We can't afford any slip-ups. This group of fixtures right here taking us into April will determine if we will win this league or not. And I don't think those look particularly difficult for us.
Well balanced.
It is. I
you
think
never
so.
know, though, do you?
But you don't, exactly. We could throw an Everton. Because you just never know. But I'm looking forward to that. Excited for 3 points tomorrow, please. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, I could get used to saying that last year, but this year it's absolutely like unpredictable. There's no way you can tell what Liverpool will turn up.
Look at these. There's some crackers in here, though.
These fixtures look very, very hard. So of course we've got a hot informed Manchester United, but this game's always going to be a massive one at Anfield. I do not see us losing, but I don't see us winning. So I'm going to go with a draw.
I think that's what we've got here as well. Yeah, absolutely.
I think, and then we've got 3 back-to-back away games, including City and Chelsea, which is unbelievably tough, followed by at home to Arsenal, the league leaders. So I genuinely do not know how to call it. I think if we manage to win one of those, the momentum will carry us forward. But if we lose one of those, it's looking quite spooky. So it genuinely is impossible to call. I'll be happy with, let's say, draw against United, win against Bournemouth, draw against City, win against Chelsea, draw against Arsenal, win against Leeds. So alternating wins and draws I'll take. Maybe.
But if you start with a win against United on Sunday, that could be
that could set the ball rolling. Yeah.
Absolutely. Even though, I think United probably might be a little bit too strong, but I feel it could be a draw. I'm hoping it's a draw as well. But and a 0-0. 0-0 would be great. No damage there, please. But it looks really, really hard. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
I don't think you need to worry too much if Liverpool beat United.
Yeah, I know, but
you want to see me happy.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to see a 0-0 and no goals. And here's your guy.
Yeah.
Here's your guy.
You think the thing is, right? Like, I would love. Look at that, man. 23 goals scored in 24 games. That's less than a goal a game, man.
That's
Like,
bad, yeah.
seriously, there's more goals conceded than goals scored. That ratio is ridiculous, man. Anyway, yeah, man. I really can't sit here and say that any of these games is a complete 3 points. Like
in a regular season, if you look down that 6, right? In a regular Chelsea
in a
season,
regular Chelsea
you look
season,
down that 6. There's not a lot of problems there, really.
I'm looking forward to a feisty game at Stamford Bridge against Liverpool. And other than that, I'm taking 3 points in every game. But this season, it's like we just threw a game to Southampton, who haven't won a game in like 18 weeks.
Crazy.
The way that Southampton have got 6 points off us this season is ridiculous.
Wow.
Like Southampton have got 6 points off us and are still like what 4 points off 19th.
Can you imagine if Southampton actually get out of the relegation zone, save themselves this season, and be able to look back and say, "Oh, you know where we got the points from? we got the points from Chelsea."
Unbelievable, man. Like I can't look across. And even if we do end up sacking Potter and getting some new manager, and it's like, what are they going to do?
Well, you're too far gone now.
82 signings that we've made. Like that is the question, squad to balance.
That is the question. Where, anybody going in there now, what's the realistic expectation from Chelsea now, who are mid-table for the end of the season?
Especially if because if you got to expect Potter to lose against Dortmund next week. So like if Potter gets knocked out of the Champions League, we're out of the 2 Continental Cups, so it's literally now just the Prem. You're right. What is the aim?
Players would lose their motivation quite quickly. And you can see the season kind of fizzling out for Chelsea, which is really dangerous.
Oh my word. Joao Felix did a video looking ahead to the Leeds game earlier today, and man, he looked like he was in prison. Like, it was unbelievable.
That's a man from Atletico Madrid.
Oh my word! He looked like he was on the verge of tears. It was crazy.
Was it like, what am I doing here?
Oh man, you just felt sorry for him, man. I felt like I was watching some kind of war drama. It was so sad.
Well, these are some very interesting times, and game week 26, the fixtures for this weekend, and we've gone with, funny enough, Kyle, Chelsea v Leeds.
Yeah, I guess you have to, because like if Potter goes and loses this game, I mean the fans have already turned on him. Like, there isn't a single post on social media now where the first 17 comments aren't, "Why is this man still at my club?" But like, if Chelsea lose to Leeds this weekend, I mean, what else?
I can't imagine how it is going to be so.
The only, and I mean the only reason I can see Potter staying at Chelsea if we do lose to Leeds is that you don't want the first game for either a caretaker or new manager to be a second leg last 16 tie against Borussia Dortmund. So that may be the only reason. But like the pressure that's going to be on Potter going into this game and even after, because again, you can see it in the stars. If they do beat Leeds, first of all, it's likely going to be like 1-0. And if they do beat Leeds, it's going to be, oh, well, it's only Leeds, isn't it? Like, so like, you just you cannot really, back him. I honestly can't. I've run out of words to believe in Potter. And
that from a Chelsea faithful man. Wow.
You know what though? What's crazy is that if we were to sack Potter next week, in another 2 months' time, if you were to ask, "Hey Kyle, what's your opinion on Potter to England?" I'd probably still go, "You know what?
I mean, we have Southgate as manager.
I'd probably
leave
still
Southgate
take
out of it, man. Come on, he's been the best England manager of your lifetime. Leave him out.
I could have done that job.
Yeah, right.
Anyways, for the rest of the fixtures, there's quite a lot of spicy fixtures this weekend. I mean, you got the early kickoff tomorrow in City versus Newcastle.
You think City will get one over them?
Yeah.
You think they're gonna come back? They're gonna come back strong after the Carabao defeat.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how big the fact the games at the Etihad is a factor, but it's interesting from an FPL perspective because it's kind of what happened in the middle of the first half of this season. I think I said right in the middle of the season. For the first, like, say, 9 games, it was like Captain Haaland every week because you had to. And then Haaland went, it wasn't necessarily a goal drought, but like City were depending on him a little less.
Mhm.
And then the last couple of weeks, it's just been, well, Haaland has as many touches of the ball as he has fingers. And so like, you're like, do I bother captaining Haaland in the first place? And then he went and got 10 points last weekend in the one game that he had, which is quite an interesting observation because you had the likes of Odegaard getting 11 with over 2 games and Ben White getting 13. Haaland still got double figures in one game.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you still captain Haaland in moments like this where City are so clearly, they're not struggling, but they're not necessarily like, I think it was a point I sent to Imran a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Carragher, but someone on Sky Sports was saying City are probably only using about 40% of Haaland's potential.
Yeah.
They don't really use him to his maximum potential. It's true. I totally believe
Haaland's most lethal on the counter with lots of space, but of course every team sets up so low against City. And they don't have that counter-attacking ability because there is no attacks to counter for them.
Haaland is one of the fastest players in the world, and you wouldn't think it. The way you've seen him in the Prem, he's so quick.
Yeah.
Well, Sunday's Nottingham Forest v Everton, and Everton is a really interesting club in this season. You know, the longest-standing club in top flight football in England.
Yeah,
and it you know, and of course you know from being in Liverpool, Imran, the new stadium is earmarked to open next season.
Yeah.
And this is a very interesting season for Everton.
I mean, I saw a meme earlier. I saw a meme earlier that said, "Oh, the boos are going to sound so good in this new stadium." Posted by an Everton fan. So like, it's amazing.
I really hope that Everton escape. Funny enough, because I think Everton as a club, they've got such history and it's such an important part of English football. It would be a real shame to see them fall away from top flight, and you never know when you start tumbling down where you're going to end.
Yeah.
So, you know, that game against Forest, I think is going to be quite an important one for them to try and salvage something. They need to get some points.
Forest are so interesting as well in themselves. Like, they don't inspire you, but they just have managed
get
to
results
on the table. They have.
I love Forest, man. I love them. Great. I've got a really big soft spot for them.
And a story that's gone a little bit under the radar is this match fixing thing that came out. Well, betting actually, not match fixing, about Ivan Toney. And we got to see now what that's going to mean in terms of the rest of Brentford's season, because you know, I think Toney will probably not be anywhere near the squad over the next couple of games. So we will see how that one fares. So some interesting ones, but we'll be watching Chelsea v Leeds to see how that plays out. I mean, because
we can't ignore Liverpool, Manchester United. No matter where they are on the table, it'll still be one of, if not the biggest.
That'll be feisty, but you know, as I said, let's watch for a 0-0 draw. So we go out with the table. You know, Arsenal have recovered after a little bit of a blip where they had 2 defeats in a draw, and they've gone three games undefeated at the moment, but of course a chasing City 5 points behind could narrow that gap to 2 points if they win at home to Newcastle in the early kickoff. You talked about Southampton earlier. The thing is about, which is interesting, they're the bottom of the table, but they're not really being cut loose.
There's no castaway as of
yet. No. So I think you got to really watch.
The only reason for that is because if we had beaten Southampton, they'd be on 12 points. They've taken 6 points from us this season. And what's crazy is that if we lose to Leeds, then Leeds are going to be like, oh, well, we've just jumped up to 14th place because we just keep gifting points to these bottom
Keep an eye on Brighton in 8th. They're on 35 points with 22 games played, which is 3 games in hand on a lot of teams, which is, if they can secure some of those wins, they might even challenge Newcastle and Liverpool, of course.
Yeah, and of course they're looking down on Potter.
Yeah.
like I said, we haven't been over Brighton all season. Not once.
Well, sometimes you can get these jobs at the wrong time. So let's see how it plays out in game week 26. That has been the football show with me, Mark, Kyle, and Imran. So we'll be watching and we'll be keeping quite a view across this weekend. Until next time, it's over and out.
Bye.